Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam. Om Karpanyadosho upahata swabhavah pruchhami tvam dharma sammudachetah yashreyasyan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Om. Okay, so before we proceed, I thought I should just let you all know that I recently got a ping from Hari Bhaiya, and as always, he puts me into a tight spot with some very, very wonderful questions. I did answer him, but what do you say? We are also planning to bring it in a verbal form so that all of us can, benefit from that particular outlook. So next week, we will start with Hari Bhaiya's question, and then we will proceed with our regular class. For this week, we will continue with our regular class. Just to give you a small heads up on the kind of question, it was about the accident that happened in Ahmedabad. So the question was, is it their fate? Is it related to karma? How does the Vedanta explains this? Is the kind of question that he has. And I thought it was a very beautiful question because answering this question will remove several of our doubts. There are misconceptions about karma, about vidhi, or about fate, right? And what is life and death, etc. So there are a lot of things that can be answered as part of answering that question. And after compiling the answer, we thought it would be great if in case we can bring it to the class and share it with everyone. Moving on, we are seeing the Bhashyam, the introduction that Aachaarya has written about Bhagwad Gita's basic Upadesh. Right now, we don't have a real context of what are all the possible ways of looking at it. Shankaracharya comes in the tradition of what is known as Advaita Parampara. And there are people who feel this Advaita Parampara is wrong, or there are people who advocate that the Dvaita Parampara is the way that Bhagwad Gita has expressed itself. In our tradition, though we come in Shankaracharya's tradition, we believe that the objective of putting this is to clarify that Advaita is not a maarga, rather it is the definition of moksha. So that is the line that we have been taking, and this introduction sets a beautiful context for all of us to proceed further. In today's class, we will continue from that of the previous week and the one before that. And here, Shankaracharya introduces that I agree that there are traditions which say that karma together with Gyan is required. This is what we saw in our previous class. And Shankaracharya negates it. He says that these two cannot go together. In fact, in Kathopanishad, when Yamadharma Raja starts his preaching about Atma Gyan to Nachiketa, the first thing that he tells is there are two paths and they don't go together. They are exactly opposite. He uses the term Shreyas and Preyas. But that is a similar line in which Shankaracharya is also trying to establish. But here we are talking in terms of tarka. We are talking in terms of an argumentative language. No, this is not the way, this is the way, kind of a traditional argument that is placed. Now, today, we are going to look at that continuation of that argument. Tatha cha bhagavata vibhakte dve buddhi nirdeshte esha te bihita sankhye buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu iti. This Esha te bihita sankhye, this comes in the 39th shloka of the second chapter. So what this shloka says is, having told you about Sankhya, which is about the Atma Gyan, or about a way of life which is pursued by those who are saints. Esha te bihita sankhye. Now listen to Buddhi Yoga to Imam Shrunu. Now you listen to that. Now I will talk to you about Buddhi Yoga. Right? Then Buddhya Yukto Yaya Partha Karma Bandham Prahasyasi, etc. We will not go into that. We will reserve it for when we get to that shloka. But what he is trying to point out here is, had Bhagavan considered that the Sankhya and Yoga Buddhi or Karma Yoga Buddhi are samuchayam, is the word that he had used, if you remember. They go hand in hand, they go together. Then he wouldn't have said this word, which is, having told you about Sankhya, now you listen to Buddhi Yoga. Right? He clearly differentiates. In the third chapter, again, he will say the same thing. Right? So far, there are two distinct paths, is the way that he will be talking about it. So here, tatha cha, and therefore, the therefore is with respect to what we have learned in our earlier class, wherein he argues that it is not they go together. Therefore, Bhagavata, Sri Bhagavan, Sri Lord Krishna, vibhakte, he has divided it. And he gives dve buddhi nirdeshte. So he prescribes two kinds of buddhi which cannot overlap with one another. Continuing his line of thinking, he says, tayoho cha, tayoho, between the two, cha, and, so, and between the two, Sankhya Buddha Ashrayam, the refuge that one takes to the Sankhya Buddhi. Jnana Yogena Nishtham Sankhyanam. Right? The application of Jnana Yoga is prescribed for those who are in the Sankhya marg. Vibhaktam vakshayati, and he divides it clearly and speaks, Pura Vedatmana Maya Prokta. Right? This comes in the third chapter, the third shloka, which I was referring to when I was in the previous slide. The shloka goes like this: Lokesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. So in this loka, asmin loke, dvividha nishtha, there are two ways of living. Pura prokta, I have told it in ancient times. One of them is Jnana Yoga for the Sankhya, or those who are in the path of Atma Jnana Nishtha. It is Jnana Yoga, which is the Marga. And Karma Yogena Yoginam. And Karma Yoga for those who practice the quote unquote word normal way of living. That doesn't mean the other one is abnormal, right? The normal is an easy way to communicate, the way that you and I live. We have a grihastashram, we have a vanaprastham, which is the retirement, and so on and so forth, right? So this way of living is what I am referring to as normal way of living. And for them, the karma yoga has been prescribed. Right? So he very clearly points out, तथा च योग बुद्ध्य आश्रयाम तथा च, and as well, yoga buddhaya ashrayam for those in the path of buddhi yoga, and karma yogena nishtham vibhaktam vakshayati. Very easy for you to follow. So the karma yoga nishtha is for this particular people, and this particular people is for this, has been very clearly divided and prescribed. Karma yogena yoginam iti. That is the way that goes into the ends this particular shloka. Right. So very clearly, Bhagavan has prescribed in this manner, which in itself goes to say that the samuchayavadam, that the karma and the jnana will go hand in hand, is not applicable in this context. Now, we have to be careful here. When I say jnana, I'm not talking in terms of samanya jnana. For us to go and create a program, I need to have the jnana. For me to cook, I need to have the jnana. Right? For everything, there is a knowledge that is required. That is the samanya jnana. It is the day-to-day affairs. For that, what we need to know. That jnana is not what is being spoken to here. What we are talking about is the Atma Jnana. The Atma Jnana in which the Atma is seen as Sad and Chit Swarupam. And in our tradition, we even say we do not include Ananta Swarupam. We say that for something to be Sad and for something to be Chit, it has to be Anantam. So Anantam is more of a derived property based on Sad and Chit. Sad is existence. We know that this exists, this exists, this exists, we say. So there is a product, or there is an object to which we attach an existence. If you take it out and look at it core as existence, that is the property of Atma. Similarly, there is some awareness, there is some kind of a feeling, there is some kind of an intelligence that is associated. That is the Chaitanyam. That is the Chit. For something to have these two, it has to be Anantam. That is the way that we say. Right? So, given that aspect of it, understanding the Atma and then evolving into that Atma itself is what the Jnana Yoga is. And those who pursue this path of Jnana Yoga, that is the Sankhya Buddhi, and for them, this is what is prescribed. Sankhya Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Or for those who are in the path of karma, right, where we are working with the family, we bring about a progeny, we ensure that the continuity of generations happen, we enjoy, right, we desire pleasures and we work towards acquiring those pleasures, etc. For such people, it is karma yoga. We will talk about karma yoga later. Right? Karma yoga is a very refined form of doing karma itself. Karma is action. We are all attached, or we are all driven by action. Karma yoga is a change in the attitude towards the action, about which we will speak in depth in the coming classes. For now, what we need to understand is these two cannot go hand in hand. And that is what Shankaracharya is trying to place as an argument at this point. Moving further, evam sankhya buddhim yoga buddhim cha. So here it's a prose order, right? So he just says, thus the sankhya buddhi and yoga buddhi ashritya dve nishthe vibhakte. Right. Ashritya is application, dve nishta, two practices, vibhakte, distinctly separate from each other. Whatever we have spoken so far. Bhagavata eva ukte. Bhagavata eva is here, indeed, Bhagavan himself has said this. Jnana karmanoho kartrutva akartrutva ekatva anekatva buddhya ashrayayoho. Very beautiful words. Jnana karmano is jnana and karma, which is karma yoga. Kartrutva and akartrutva. That is the big difference. There is a doership which is associated with the karma buddhi. In the jnana buddhi, it is an akartrutva buddhi. Why? In the karma yoga, or for those who are in the path of the normal life, quote unquote, for us, I represents me, which is different from you. That distinction is always there. I am this is mouse. This belongs to me, and this is not mine. This is his. The divided way of looking at the world is the core of all the people who are leading a normal life. When that division vanishes, how does it vanish? So does it mean that for a jnani, that division doesn't exist? No, it doesn't exist. But it is transactionally accepted. Right? So let us assume that I am a jnani with Atma Jnana. Right? For me, my realization will be always that we are all one. When I say we, it is not just those who are in the class. I'm talking in terms of this entire world, not just this world, this entire solar system, this entire 14 lokas. Right? There is no difference. Right? For me, that bias is totally gone. Right? And I do not hold anything as I. As we will go in the fourth chapter, it will be very beautiful. The way that Bhagavan introduces is he gives the yajna that we do as the example. That is what he starts with, and then he lists another 12 things wherein he says you have to practice it this way. And when we go there, we will understand what is the vibhakti. Right? For the transaction purposes, there are several vibhaktis. Right? There are various things that are associated in transactions. There is a relationship. For a jnani, all those relationships become the Brahman. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam. Right? So for everything becomes a Brahman. There is no distinction at all. And his life is pure. In the sense, it is not contaminated with the thought of this is mine, this is yours, and so on and so forth. It is at that moment. He is full at all times, is the beauty of that. And that level of a changed outlook can only come when you are seeing everything as one. That Advaita Darshanam should be there. Here only the importance of Advaita comes in place. in Advaita Darshanam, what is happening is, it is not like there is nothing else that is having an impact on me or anything of that sort. Nothing impacts me, but there are various things, and I continue to work. I continue to contribute in the same way that anyone else is doing. There is no change, but my outlook from within is all changed. That aspect of it is what we call as Jnana Marg. That at that point, the division stops. When the division stops, that I am the Karta, that I am the doer of this thing, vanishes in him. That is what is Kartritva, Akartritva Buddhi. Then second is Ekatva, Anekatva Buddhi. Right? Ekatvam and Anekatvam, very easy. Seeing one, seeing many. That is what is the Buddhi is. Right? Here again, whatever I explained with respect to Kartritva, Kartritva Buddhi, I had to use Ekam and Anekam for that. Which is that difference in a person's mindset is vanished. And Bhagavad Gita helps you go in that path if you want. Or if you are more interested in Karma Yoga, it helps you go in the path of Karma Yoga as well. That is the greatness of this particular text. And there, the realization of Anekatvam and Ekatvam is the main differentiation for us to go in any of the path that we see. Then, Buddhaya Ashrayoho, which is what is your mind be taking a refuge in one of the two. You cannot have Ekatva Buddhi and Anekatva Buddhi. If you have Ekatva Buddhi, there won't be any Anekatva Buddhi in you at all. It cannot be. Right? So that is what Shankaracharya is trying to establish here. Very, very important, very subtle, and a very difficult concept to get to. But stay on and you will see that the realization this will bring is amazing. You'll be really impressed with the kind of realization that happens as we proceed into knowing more about it. But for now, you think in terms of this, that I always look at it as mine, I, etc. I divide it and look. And a person who is successful will hardly do the division. The lesser the division one does, the more successful that person becomes. It may not be material success, right? We are not talking about it. That is something that Bhagavan gives as a prasad. I'm talking about the success in terms of reaching out into the blissful state in us. Once we are happy, nothing else doesn't really matter actually. Right? That bliss is what we are talking about. Going further, Eka Purusha Ashraya Asambhavam Pashyata. So to see one person taking a refuge in both the planes is asambhav, is not possible. So the argument that Shankaracharya is placing is that, hey, Bhagavan has clearly divided it and given. On top of it, when you study it in depth, you see that these differences happens, which is Kartritva, Kartritva Buddhi, Ekatva, Anekatva Buddhi, etc. This comes in. And by nature, they are opposite and hence they cannot coexist. And that is the argument that Shankaracharya has placed at this point. Going further. So here, see, all these were written like about 1 month ago, so I don't even know what slide is going to come next. Right, so here I had put quick and important note. Jnana Marga versus Karma Marga. Sankhya Yoga versus Karma Yoga versus Karma. Okay, So, what is maarga? Not a prescriptive way of life. Way of life has prescriptive guidances. You should understand the difference between the two again. One is, okay, Karma Yoga is this prescription. I follow this. I will start studying about Karma Yoga, I start following it. Right? So that is a prescriptive way of life. Here, in terms of Bhagavad Gita, it is not a prescriptive way of life. The way of life is your choice. You make the choice and you are not bound by it. As you grow, see, when you were a child, maybe you were kind of crying for getting an ice cream. Now you don't cry for getting an ice cream. Right? So there is a big difference. You keep changing, and the change is a natural thing in us. Way of life has prescriptive guidances. Here it means that in Bhagavad Gita, we don't say that, hey, for Karma Yoga, this is the prescription. For Jnana Yoga, this is the prescription. No. Realize where you are. Realize what you are doing and excel in that, taking the prescriptive guidances that are applicable to you for what you are today. And it is not a strict division, it is kind of evolving division. So, and for every evolution, there is always something that is available. Jnana marga or nivritti marga. We know that we may not be able to even see somebody who is like that. There are some cults like Naga, the Naga sadhus, aghoras, right? So they are like that. And these are school based. And there are several who are unknown and independent. Right? So I was seeing somebody had posted some kind of a WhatsApp video wherein, he goes, he breaks the ice, he puts his hand inside, takes the water and takes a shower and goes. And you and I cannot even imagine that. Right? So the idea behind that, behind bringing that is, those people are just in the Jnana Marga. They are in the path of Nivritti Marga, means letting go of. I am not trying to accumulate. I am trying to let go. That is the way that they live. It is a mental state. It is a perspective. It is a level of maturity. That is what we need to keep in mind. For Karma Marga, also known as Pravritti Marga, we have Varnashrama Dharma. It says that if you are a brahmachari, you are in the, you are in the ashrama called as brahmacharya ashram, and you are a kshatriya, then this is what is your, prescribed set of duties, kind of a stuff. Those are varnashrama dharma. It is not like strictly said this is what it is. It is prescriptive in nature where you can evolve on your own self. On top of it, we also have kul based, right? In my family tradition, this is what we practice. And that should be practiced. That should be given a higher priority. Because at the end of the day, we are here to progress the kul. What we have become with a lot of commercial influence is we have started trying to benefit our own selves. The traditional, the Vedic way of looking is we lead a life of either serving the humanity or serving our tradition, our kul. Right? So that is the way that they prescribe. And they say that your culture, as in the Indic culture, the Indian culture, has grown this strong because of this. Right? Everywhere else, they just got destroyed. You talk of Mayan culture, you talk of Egyptian, you talk of Roman, you talk of Persian, right? Every Mesopotamian, right? Everything has got crushed. But the Indic culture, or the one that has grown from this root, be it Buddhism or anything else that has grown from here, you will see are very strongly rooted. And that is because it is based on Kul. And Varnashrama Dharma has played an important part. Arthashastra has played an important part. We are just replacing those with perhaps the constitution. The depth of your own Kul must always be upheld. If you can do that, then this culture will be eternal. It will be Sanathanam, and hence it is called Sanatana Dharma. A very beautiful concept, actually, where the emphasis is not to say that I am a Brahmin, so you should obey me, etc. This is total marketing with evil intention. That has never been the case. There will be ups and downs, no doubts about it. It's a social problem. It is not the problem of the traditions. The traditions always emphasize that you know your Kul. You know that you had a grandfather who had a grandfather and who had a grandfather and so on. You can never deny that. And that Kul you serve. That is what the prescription here is. But as I said, this was an important note I have written. I don't know why, but this is not what Shankaracharya has said. Yatha etad vibhaga vachanam. Yatha, for instance, in this context, it is in the same manner. Etad, this vibhaga vachanam, the divided or the speech which has created two distinct paths. Tat tathaiva, tat eva, in the same manner, darshitam is shown in, he is giving a quote from Shatapathiya Brahmanam. Right. So this Shatapathiya Brahmanam is part of it's part of an Upanishad. Right. So it is not part of an Upanishad. Okay. This Brahmana has been created as an explanation with giving 100 ways, right, of pursuing things. That is what this one is. But here uh, Shankaracharya is quoting it from Shatapatha Brahmana, right? So etameva pravrajino lokamichanto brahmanaha pravrajanti iti. Right. Etameva pravrajino lokam, which is etameva, similarly, pravrajino, going after lokam, the world of ichanto, desiring, brahmanaha, contextually, those who have realized the Brahman. Pravrajanti means depart from or proceed in the same path, which is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.4.22. That is what is the quote that Shankaracharya has given. Sarva karma sannyasam vidhaya tacheshane kim prajaya karishyamo yesham noyamatmayam lokah iti. Again, a quote. This is entirely a quote. Kim prajaya karishyamo. Right. Sarva karma sannyasam vidhaya tacheshana. Kim, what? Prajaya, children, karishyamo, is of significance. Right. So the way that these people lived is they do not get attached to that way of thinking, is the simple way of putting it. I wish I had taken the quote. I think I have. Okay. Shatha is 100. Patha is means, way of. Brahmana. Right. So in the Veda, I'm sure Ravi Bhaiya may recollect, right, when we did the introduction of Veda, we saw it that Veda can be divided into two, right? Karma Kandam and Jnana Kandam. Right? That is simple way of looking at it. But if you really go and analyze the text, it is divided into four. Mantra Bhagam, Brahmana Bhagam, Upasana, and Upanishad are the four. Mantra Bhagam basically speaks of this is Indra, this is what it is, this is Agni, this is Vayu, and so on and so forth. It continues to provide the mantra that promotes or that identifies the greatness of the deities. And scientifically speaking, they are not the greatness of deities. Rather, they are the property of those which are represented by the deities, as we have seen in Vishnu Sahasranama. Right? So there the Ishvara has been taken and the properties have been defined. And several of the properties, be it for the light or be it for the sun, right, which will be like a Archana mantra, like that is the way that you may be seeing it, or as a mantra that is used in the yajna. But when you look into the meaning of it, they are defined properties of those elements. That is the mantra bhagam. So mantra bhagam is these are the mantras. Brahmana bhagam says that, hey, if this is the kriya that you want to do, then you say these mantras. Okay, so it is just like the way that we have several index-based systems that are getting organized in computers today. Right, we have set of data here, and whatever the procedure that I want, I just call that and I add it. Right, so that is what we do. There is a library, I just import that library and I call the functions in that and I get something executed. Right, that is the way that we do our programming today. Brahmana Bhagam defines for what purpose, what mantra is to be used. Right, and it also defines what is the benefit of doing such and such thing. Putrakameshti yajnam. This is for those who are desirous of having children. Like that, the Brahmana Bhagam is the one which defines what mantra is to be done for what yajna, for what purposes. Upasana is getting into the aspect of meditation. We speak of four types of meditation: relaxation meditation, concentration meditation, expansion meditation, and value meditation. Right? Expansion meditation is I will just meditate on the fact that for my heart to function, it has to have a space in my chest. That space is the same as the space I see in the antariksha. Right? So this space is no different from that space. So like that we can do. When we do that expansion, that is called as an expansion meditation. That makes our thinking much bigger. Value meditation is emphasizing a value. What is happening is, see, danam. I want to, what do you say, give some money, or I want to do the dan. But I'm so miserly in my mind that I'm not able to give the money. Yeah, I should give money. Giving money is all good. All those things we speak. But if in case I have to put my hands into my wallet and take the money out and give it to somebody, my hands will totally withdraw. This is because the value of doing the dan has not yet been registered in me. The fear of not having the money, or the fear of someone else cheating me and taking my money away, is more valued than the value of giving the dan. So what we do is we take a specific thing. Abhayam means fearlessness. Then we can think in terms of how that value can be expanded. Danam, we can think in terms of, right, Satyam, being speaking the truth, rhythm, whatever you want, you can take that as the value and build the ability to make that as the biggest. We say Harishchandra is a great example. He was willing to let go anything for the truth. Unfortunately, the marketing today has taken up to a place where they say that, if you are like Harishchandra, you will not be able to survive. Very, very poor way. The idea of Harishchandra is to emphasize on the value of truth. Similarly, to emphasize on the value of fearlessness. What we are doing now, death has become something that we all want to resist. If in case somebody has lived long, then we try to celebrate it. I'm not saying don't celebrate. Have the respect for it, but not the desire to live long. Desire to live right is what we should have, not the desire to live long. But what has happened? That has developed so much of fear. Even if in case I don't need a medicine, I will have to have that medicine and try to survive. That has become the problem. This is because we have not been performing the value-based meditations. Those things are within the upasana. Upanishad introduces what we call as the absolute, the one truth, the paramarthika sat, the parabrahmam, atmavayidam, tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, the subject versus object, and identify yourself with the subject. That is the biggest thing that Upanishads do in all its teachings. Now, the mantra that Aachaarya has quoted is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Here, Yajnavalkya meets with King Janaka. Right. I'm not going to go back into the same mantra here. Right. So, what should we do with the progeny? We for whom the self alone is the word, is the way that he teaches it. He says that when a person attains that particular state, wherein there is no difference between I and the world, what is the use of progeny and stuff like that? It doesn't really come into effect here. This particular dialogue between King Janaka and sage Yajnavalkya is a beautiful place in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And it happens multiple times under various circumstances also. We will keep it for Brihadaranyaka Upanishad teaching. For now, we will think in terms of Shankaracharya quoting this to say, hey, this has been told in the Shatapatha Brahmana also, and for that he has taken the quote from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, wherein he tries to establish that the two paths are not going hand in hand. Moving on. Tatra evacha, and only towards establishing the concept of karma yogi here. Prad dara parigrahat purushaha. Right. No, prad dara parigrahat. Right. Parigraham. Right. Panigraham is something that we also use. Dharana is related to marriage. Atma prakrito. Atma prakrito is prakrita atma. Prakrita means of the lower order. Right. In the way that I saw in the dictionary is primordial. Right. So, which is one who is bound by the attachment to the world. The normal people in the earlier quote that I had given. Dharma jignasa uttara kalam lokatraya sadhanam putram. So what happens is these people first try to learn about the dharma adharma vivekam. So the first thing that comes in their heart is dharma jignasa, the desire to know about dharma. The term dharma is to be seen in several forms that we have discussed earlier, not at a Sanatana Dharma level, right? So here it is more like, in terms of what is the dharma for a Kshatriya or Varnashrama dharma and other things that we had earlier spoken. So dharma jignasa uttara kalam lokatraya. After learning about the dharma of the three worlds, sadhanam putram, they take to children as the means. Dviprakaram cha vittam manusham daivam cha. So they look at two kinds of wealth, which is human and divine. Right. So this is again very contextual to the time period of Shankaracharya. In today's world, we can say that they look at the wealth in terms of the money that one can acquire, the pleasures that one can enjoy, or their children and family. But here he is talking about the ones who want to go for the Pitraloka versus the one who wants to go for the, Swargaloka kind of a stuff. Right. So that is the basic thing that he is talking about. So I think it is more contextual to the time period and the persons to whom he is speaking. But we can see that the desire of binding ourselves to this is applicable even today. Tatra manusham vittam karma rupam. For those people who want to earn more money, it is karma, right? Which is Pitriloka Prapti Sadhanam. It is a means for us to attain the Pitriloka. Vidyam cha daivam vittam devaloka prapti sadhanam. So those who pursue the path of Vidya. So nowadays, everyone is trying to go into the path of Vidya. But in those days, what I have heard from the historians, I don't know how true or how correct it is or wrong it is, but the fact is the Vidya was still there. But what they were doing, they were practicing their own vocation, learning it from the father, right? And there are people who are weavers, and I'm told that a person was able to weave, or some traditions could weave a sari which can be folded to the size of a matchbox and put it inside the matchbox. It was that fine a material. Right? And these kind of traditionally got carried forward. Right? And now it has changed. So as I said, this may be more applicable to that time period in terms of the example, but in terms of the mindset, it is exactly the same. There is no change at all. Right. So what he says is those who are using the vocational aspect, they pursue the path of the Pitraloka, and those who have the education, knowledge driven, right? Not Atmagyan, Samanya Gyan, right? So those kind of knowledge driven people, for them it is the Devaloka Prapti Sadhanam, means those are the means for us to attain the heavens. So that is how he is trying to create the difference based on the time period when he is presenting it to them. Moving on. Tatra evacha. Oh, okay. So kamayat. So he is giving again from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as an example. Right. So is, we put it together so it becomes so kamayat, but it is sa akamayat. Right. And desires accordingly. He pursues the saha is that person. Akamayat means he gets into that particular, what is a form of kamana, and he pursues. Here again, I have given the full mantra from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Right? The same thing that we had spoken about earlier. Before taking a wife, a man is naturally inclined to understand the dharma. And people don't really follow this one. The example that I have learned is like, when you are born, you don't have any dharma, right? You just, what do you say, whatever you want. And as you get into the toddlers and terrible twos and stuff like that, you will see that there is a adharma pravritti in them. What I want is for me, kind of a stuff, right? So they have that adharma pravritti in them. And then very naturally, they start getting attracted towards dharma because they see that the same adharma is impacting them. So there is a natural inclination to learn about dharma, is one way of looking at it. So what here they say is, before you get married, you develop this jignasa for learning about the dharma. Then, for the purpose of attainment of the three lokas, he pursues the children. Right? Because for you to get into a higher loka, your children have to perform the pitrikarya. And because of that, you are going to be pursuing the path of the children. And they have two types of wealth, which is manusham vittam and deva vittam. And this is the way that it is defined, which is what Shankaracharya quotes here. This is again from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, right? So here, tebhyo vyuthaya pravrajanti. This is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4:422. Right. Again, I have given the complete mantra here. So when a person rises above such desires, then they renounce the world. So long as this desire is holding you, you will not be able to renounce the world. Right. And for those for whom the Atma is not the ultimate reality, they remain engaged in the desires. Right? So there will be a point where this Atma Gyan becomes very, very important. We give an example from, one of the Puranic stories, wherein I will not go into the detail, but I'll just keep it very simple, which is, there was a king. He wanted to live, so he does a penance and he says that, hey, make me young again. So they say, you cannot be made young if in case one of your children is willing to give their youth to you, then you can become young. So he asks all his children, right? One of the children will say, yes, I will do. And so he takes it over. And because he won't be the eldest of the son, but because he has given, he becomes a king, and so on and so forth. It is all within the same, the Chandravamshi that we are talking about. Right. So it is a nice story. But the idea is, the way that we pursue it further is to say that, he was getting it, and at one point he said, well, I don't think I want to become young again. I'm more than happy to take the moksha. No matter how effective, how strong, whatever you are, there will be a point where this bondage will become a burden for you, right? Until then, we can elevate ourselves, is the main concept that is being spoken here. This one is, we are at 7:25. We can stop here. I was thinking maybe Q&A we can go, but I don't think we can. Right. So we will take a break here, and we'll have a quick Q&A so that Ravi will have time for coming over. Okay. So Namaskar ji.
Namaskar, Uncle ji.
Oi, Prabhakar got dropped. Haha. Okay.
Yeah. I have no questions, Uncle.
ठीक है. Well, then we will end the class here, and I will wait for you to come.
Okay, Uncle ji. Thank you.
ठीक है. अच्छा भैया जी. जय श्री राम. Bye. हरि ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम तत्सत्